if you like betting on golf, but everyone that you back misses the cut. Get some experts involved with all the stats and the tips and so much more, 'cause it's the golf betting system, the golf betting system, it's the golf betting system podcast.
Greetings and welcome to the Golf Betting System podcast. It's episode 389. This is our 2026 Masters Tournament in-depth research podcast. Barry O'Hanrahan and Paul Williams join me, Steve Bamford, to discuss the ever much anticipated first major championship at Augusta National. How are you, chaps?
Afternoon. Morning, Steve. It's confusing me, this later podcast record time.
We're a global podcast. We're morning, afternoon, evening, the works. This is the best episode of the year, isn't it? Right?
It is. It is.
This podcast is for listeners of 18 and above. Please be gamble aware. You can visit gambleaware.org for more information. And of course, please bet responsibly. Visit our world famous golf betting system website where we have our Masters research preview. We've got detailed course form. We've got major championship form stats, which I always like a look at. Best of all, we've got Augusta National strokes gained rankings. Plus, from Monday the 4th of April, our Masters new and old predictor models. All of our content is available completely free of charge. There is no paywall or registration required. We're available on X. You can follow us. Barry's at A Good Talk Golf. Paul is at Golf Betting. I am at Bamford Golf. We are on Bluesky. Search for Steve Bamford and Paul Williams. Subscribe to the Steve Bamford Golf YouTube channel where this podcast is available each and every week. If you are listening to this on YouTube, please press that like button. I reckon we can get at least 200 likes for this particular episode. Now, you guys as listeners power this podcast, so we need your 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. As ever, for those who leave a review, I will read them out at the start of a future show. Leave your name and where you are in the review. This one literally clicked in within the last 24 hours. It's from Infinite Jest 87, and Infinite is in the United Kingdom. It is entitled 5 stars. No, Steve, have my kids instead! ! You are already driving a wedge between me and my partner. It's always good to hear, isn't it, this kind of uplifting stuff, gents? When I take us on a day out, I require complete silence in the car while I take your insightful analysis on board. You asked last week, wait for this, Barry, who's on the Woodland train? Well, at 125 to 1, I certainly was.
Amazing.
He's currently teeing off in round 4, and my palms are sweaty. Come on, Gary! ! Infinite Jest, Gary delivered, and we thank you ever so kindly for your 5-star review. Thank you.
Brilliant stuff, and congratulations on a fantastic win. Always nice to snare a triple-digit winner at any point in the season.
125 to 1.
I still can't believe
you've got that price.
I still can't believe you guys didn't back him after mentioning him.
Let's not start this podcast in a negative manner.
It's very positive. A lot of people had great success on it.
Oh, yeah. We're constantly reminded. Yeah.
Yeah. Right, last thing for me before we actually start talking about the Masters. The Masters Tips podcast is just around the corner, listeners. It will be available on Tuesday, the 7th of April. Have I got the dates right? No. Tuesday, the 5th of April. I knew that was wrong as soon as I read it. Tuesday, the 5th of April, Masters Tips podcast will be out there. My actual tips preview will be out on Monday, the 4th of April, as will predictor models and final statistics. Right. Where should we start, chaps? Where should we start this fantastic research podcast? What do you want to know?
What do we want to know? Well, the winner would be nice, Steve. Yeah, the winner would be nice. I don't know.
The winner would be great.
I guess.
Should we talk about the course quickly?
Yeah, and I think there have been some minor changes, haven't there, since last year?
Barry, you'll like this. They've added more length to the course for this year.
How much?
Only 10 yards, but, you know. Do they need to add much more? 7,565 yards it will play this year. Quite long. Par 72. In terms of the agronomy, because I know we've got a lot of agronomy nuts, we are dealing with bent grass greens for the first time in 2026. The fairways are overseeded perennial rye with Bermuda grass base. The first cut, because of course there is no rough at Augusta National, overseeded perennial ryegrass with Bermuda grass base. The length of that first cut is, and always will be, I think, 1.375 inches in length. The greens, 6,486 square feet on average. They feature A1 pen bent grass. The stimp, and this is the bit that always gets Barry semi-erotic, they should be running at 13 to 14 feet on the stimp. That extra 10 yards, just for real geeks, they've added it to the par 4 17th Nandina. And basically they have just simply moved the tee markers back 10 yards. It's not a new tee box or anything like that. They're just moving it back. And they've created a little bit more room in front of the tee box, apparently. But anyway, minor details. All I will say is, and we say this every single year, the way that Augusta National is set up, they mow the fairways against the grain of the grass, which basically means that the ball stops and checks far quicker than it does on most major championship and PGA Tour courses. So driving distances are shortened, and each and every year they tend to make the course longer. I've always guessed that, chaps, but I reckon if you actually look at this golf course in reality in the way that it plays, this is going to play closer to 7,900 yards than its quoted 7,565 yards.
Yeah, and some of it comes down to the conditions as well. If it's softer, then it plays longer anyway. But yeah, they deliberately try and make it a challenge from off the tee. The change on 17 is interesting because of the holes on the back nine, 17 for me is probably the least exciting one. With most of the others, there's something going on. 17 just seems a bit of a kind of standard par 4, but yeah, adding
uphill.
10 yards to it may change the challenge a little bit, I guess, and just these little tweaks and changes that are made pretty much every year just to kind of keep things fresh, I guess.
We know the course. I expect 95% of listeners know the course really well. But I always read this at the start of the research podcast because I love it. Other challenges include huge and contoured bent grass putting surfaces, which can bamboozle the inexperienced and poor putters alike. Rating at anything up to 14 on the stimp. If Mother Nature allows, and I'm going to come to you, Barry, I'm going to ask you in a very short space of time, what's the weather been like in the last couple of days at Augusta? The sub-air-fueled beauties are like little else the world's best golfer face across the rest of the season. Birdie chances are restricted to the smallest of target areas, many of which are only accessible by using the natural contours of the green. Difficulty is also ratcheted up by Augusta's infamous runoff areas which surround all green complexes. The lack of rough around greens creates indecision when missing greens, with scrambling percentages suffering as a result. Too many options can confuse players, so course experience and a patient outlook pays. The greens here can be the stars. They really can be. And I've got a feeling, although Barry might be about to kind of poo-poo this a little bit, but from what I have seen of previous rainfall here and of immediate rainfall, there hasn't been a great deal. And that to me is music, because I think the organisers are going to be able to have this course to a scenario that is the perfect setup that they like and that we like in terms of green speeds. Mm-hmm. I don't see this being a Dustin Johnson November soft golf course, which is just like throwing darts. Mm. I really don't. Let's hope not, anyway.
The signs are good.
Go on then, Barry. Take us through it.
So you've done your rainfall this year so far, and it's been quite low. And between now and next week, I'm seeing 6-7 millimeters of rain in total, and nothing from Monday onwards. So, and we've temperatures into the mid-high 20s between now and tournament kickoff. So I think this feels like the least chaotic lead up in terms of weather that we've had in quite a while. So they have maximum tunability to make the course do whatever they want. And just thinking out loud here, the wind looks quite low over the course of the tournament, and albeit we're over a week out, but nothing gusting more than 30 kilometers an hour over the event. So they might really let it get as firm as we might ever see it, to account for the fact that wind is low, and the challenge when it comes to the wind will be a bit lower than usual. And yeah, I'm fascinated to see how the course plays when we get to it.
Mm. Yeah, it does kind of set up for what could be a truly firm and fast renewal, which would be really good to see. It's interesting because they can always manage the course to get to kind of their target winning score. So the last 5 years has been really consistent, even though we've had some varied weather conditions. I think last year wasn't too bad, but I remember some of the preview pods that we've had prior to that where we were talking about the weather, and it was very much, is it going to be windy, how wet is it going to be? And yeah, certainly not this year. And yeah, I think they'll be able to manage it into that kind of 10-12 under bracket, which tends to be where the winner manages to get to, and that's typically good enough, unless, as Steve said, it's a Dustin Johnson sopping wet year, which we aren't going to get.
Yeah, he won. I know it was November. He won at a crazy 20 under par.
Yeah.
Since then, Matsuyama, 10 under. Scotty Scheffler, 10 under. John Rahm, 12 under. Scotty Scheffler, 11 under. Rory McIlroy, 11 under. I don't see any reason that number changes.
No.
If anything, it could potentially be 10 or 9 under, something along those lines.
Mm. Yeah, it depends how fiery those greens get over the weekend.
Depends how, yeah. I can't see them wanting to make it super, super difficult.
No,
and that's not the game, is it?
No, they want the excitement of birdies and bogeys. You don't want it to work. They never wanted where making pars is a challenge on every hole. So you want the availability of birdies and eagles for that excitement. So yeah, I think we could see a bit more, hopefully maybe a bit more variance in terms of birdies, eagles and bogeys and doubles this year. If the course plays that a little bit firmer, I think might see a few more extremes. Could make it more of a roller coaster for watching, and even worse when you're tracking one or two of your bets.
Mm. Could your heart take it, Barry, if it was as volatile as last year's Sunday?
I don't know. I'm a year older now, so I watched the documentary on Prime earlier this week, and it was you think, oh, it's a year on, but man, the emotions of that day came flooding back in, and watching the shots happen, it was still like you're thinking, God, he might not win this, even though you know it was done. But just it was so swingy, and it look, the documentary is very enjoyable to watch. It's an hour and a bit for anybody who hasn't watched it yet, so, and good refresher, and really gets you in the mood. And not that you really need that, but it's still incredible that he won it with everything that happened that day.
Oh,
It was just
fabulous.
like Rose 6 back at one stage, maybe even 7. They didn't show everything, and didn't dig back into fact check, but they showed a leaderboard at one stage, and Rose was 6 back, and then next thing you know, Rose just he made like 8 birdies in his last 12 holes. It was all time.
Yeah.
The real beauty of that is, and that goes back to what we just said a couple of minutes ago, is that even though that course was playing as Augusta wanted it to in terms of firmness and releasing greens, Justin Rose could still fire in all those birdies.
Yeah. If you play
It bamboozles players, but those that can get around there and those that have got the patience and the nuance and the skill set to do it can still get on a hot Sunday back 9 run.
Yeah, and look, and you can still get away with shots. I mean, Spieth's been doing it for years there, and Rory, after kind of talking how he was going to attack the course last year pre-event and how it needed to be boring golf, I think he described it back in the time, and got to Sunday and it was kind of shackles off. I'm just going to go, back to Rory version 1.0.
Old school Rory, yeah. It was wild.
Absolutely. It was, and he was in and out of the trees on a few of the holes, and doubled 13, didn't he? And then that incredible shot on 15. Yeah, I haven't watched that documentary, Barry, but thanks for the tip. I shall give that a watch over the weekend.
So many moments. Like the one was early on in the front line. Was it? I can't remember. 7, where he was left of the fairway and he spotted this tiny gap to go above the canopy. Harry was just like, just pitch it out. And Rory's like, no, I think I got this. Like that was like 22-year-old Rory going, yeah, it's fine. And he stuck it to nothing. And then the ball running down the hill on 11, that just kind of held up in the last bit of the first cut before it would have tumbled down into the water. Like there's so many fine margins where it could have been even crazier. And I might watch it again before next week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, watch that, then the par 3 competition, and then you're ready to go.
Just from the eye test, what do you think's the key to Augusta National? I am going to come in after, just with the strokes gained per round numbers for this. But just from watching it, the eye test, what do you think is absolutely critical to win a Masters?
Well, what do you think, Paul? I was just going to say, if you rank the 4 different elements of the game, just if you broke it down into driving, approach play, short game, and putting. If you were to rank them, what would you do there, Paul? 1, 2, 3, 4. In terms of importance.
Look, it's touted as the kind of the ultimate tee to green test, and I do subscribe to that in principle, I think, and I'm sure the stats will bear it out, and I'm sure Steve will take us through it, and it'll bear that out. I think around the green is underrated, and I think if I was to rank them in any fashion, I think around the green would have to be second, because you need to have that. The greens and regulation stats in old numbers, in old parlance, are generally low around Augusta National. So you need to have a short game. You need to be able to save par. You need to be able to play pitch shots to make birdies and eagles potentially. When the situation dictates. And if you haven't got that in your locker, I don't think you've got all of the skills required to to go and win a Masters to put on the green jacket. So yeah, I think putting would probably be the last of the four, which sounds bizarre given that you've got these incredibly fast contoured greens that really do challenge every player, and three putts are, the widespread. You're going to make three putts over the course of the 4 days. But I think, and again, the numbers will bear it out to a degree. I did look through to see what Rory did last year, and he led the field for strokes gain approach and tee to green, which kind of marries up with what I said. But he was still 10th for around the green, and I think that is fairly indicative of what you need, I think.
I agree. I think you've got the important one is number one is approach play, and you need to have a quick cover for that when it doesn't work. So the short game then to give yourself chances to make par or make birdie if you've got up near a par 5 and 2. So and with the greens being that fast and that contoured, they're difficult for everybody. So I think it's harder for the elite putters to truly separate themselves from the field when it's just difficult for everybody. So probably is one of the reasons why putting takes less of a spotlight on what's required.
Yes.
You're both correct. I'll read through the strokes gained per round of the last 5 champions by skill set. Off the tee, 0.95. That's the highest number I can see so far across the PGA Tour, if we take courses from Sony Open through to now. So they need to gain almost a stroke off the tee. They need to gain 1.44 strokes per round with their approach play. That is actually, I can see other courses that set up more than that. 1.73 at Torrey, 1.71 this week at the Valero, 1.75 at the Players, which makes sense. But still quite a chunk, 1.44 on approach. This is the crazy number, though. This number's just mad. They are gaining 1.28 strokes per round around the green. To put that into context, I can't find another PGA Tour setup so far that we've seen in 2026 with a number bigger than 0.87, and you could probably guess it, that's Bay Hill. Which, as we know, big golf course, very firm conditions, big greens, but you've got to have a short game there. So that all adds up to 3.66 strokes per round gained tee to green. The highest I'm seeing of venues so far is 3.14 this week at the Valero Texas Open, Players 2.85. The putter, it's the lowest amount of strokes gained required that we've seen so far this year. It's as easy. It is easy. It's 0.32 strokes per round for the winners.
Wow.
That's madness.
Just over a stroke over the course of the 4 days.
So 3.7 with the tee to green and only 0.3 if we're rounding up with the putter.
Would you say the figure for driving is a very high percentage of that that makes up that strokes gained is in distance rather than accuracy?
I suspect so, yes. You can just see that with the winners list, can't you?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a long course. If you can put it in the fairway and a long way down, then you're going to be a hell of a lot better off than in the fairway and further back. I mean, that goes without saying. But short, precise players are still going to be challenged. Some of those holes, the 11th is, it's so tough if you're a long way back. And getting those pivotal par 5s, you've got to be in position to be able to do it.
Yeah, here's a 230-yard approach shot with water short left and all the land flowing towards it. Go.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I wouldn't fancy that myself.
Now, this podcast is just going to be made up, I suspect, of data, trends. I know we always love Paul's piece around trends and who's going to win, who ticks all the boxes. I just thought I'd start by reading these out. Recent winning prices through 2025 of winners here. 13-2 McIlroy, second favourite. 4-1 Scheffler, favourite. 9-1 Rahm. 16-1 Scheffler. 45-1 Matsuyama. Juicy here. 9-1 DJ. 16-1 Tiger. Then we go out to the year that you guys never forget. Patrick Reed at 55-1. They were both on board, listeners. Clearly I wasn't. 45-1 Sergio Garcia. I was on Justin Rose that year. Who they were in a massive head-to-head. The outlier, of course, was Danny Willett. 2016 in so many ways, Danny Willett. 66-1. When Spieth imploded. He was the defending champion, of course. He'd won the year before at 12-1, which is pretty incredible because Jordan Spieth was only making his second ever appearance at Augusta.
Yeah.
I believe he was second the year before. Mm. Then we've got 28-1 Bubba, 28-1 Scott, 55-1 Bubba Watson, 2012, the first year he won. So, no winners in recent times bigger than 66-1. I thought I'd quickly take you through the Masters appearances prior to winning. McIlroy 16.
He had a few goes.
16. Scheffler 4. The second time he won. Rahm, 7. Scheffler, 2. The first time he won. Matsuyama, 9. DJ, 7. Tiger, 20. Reed, 4. Garcia, 18. And then we've got weirdly Weirs. Willett, 1. Spieth, 1. There's the old stat, isn't there? Hale Irwin, is it?
Oh, Fuzzy Zeller, Steve. Fuzzy Zeller.
Fuzzy Zeller, that's it. I get confused. I'm 53. I'm starting to lose all of my anything relating to long-term memory. Oh, short-term. Just throw any memory in there. Yes, Fuzzy Zeller was the latest debutant, wasn't he? Mm. To win this.
Yes, the late, great Fuzzy Zeller.
So in reality, you need a go-round here, don't you?
Yeah, you do. And I think Rory's 16 attempts puts it into context because he'd had chances in various years until he'd finally got his head round it and then found a way last year to get himself over the line. Just.
How much of that around the green game, and this is something that's totally intangible, how much of that around the green game and the amount of strokes gained comes from actual course experience and knowing where to miss? I'd say quite a chunk.
Yeah. Although golfers are golf fans, and we could all almost map out every hole on that course from memory, from the amount of times we've seen it and the observations that we've had over the years. So I guess they'll have a fair idea, but the reality of being on that piece of land, rather than watching it on TV, must be entirely different. We will get to go one year, Steve. We will.
Data golf rankings, Barry, eh? Here we go. Data golf rankings of recent winners. McIlroy 2, Scheffler 1. Rahm 2, Scheffler the first time 3. That's right, listeners. No one for the last 4 years has been outside the top 3 in the data golf rankings. The outlier, of course, his Hideki's win. He was 29th. Whenever you do this podcast, you can hear people mentally making notes and on their phones or on pieces of paper, taking stuff down, which is what it's all about. We then go back to DJ was 3, so another one in the top 3. Tigger, 13. Patrick Reed, 20. So to summarise, 5 of the last 6 have been in the top 3 in the Data Golf rankings arriving at Augusta. Nobody outside the top 30 has won since 2018. So it isn't the kind of tournament that's won to this point by a big shock type winner. I mean, that's obvious from the prices as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sure I could go back and find out what Data Golf ranking Danny Willett was. He'd actually been playing well for over a year, hadn't he? I think he top 10 at the previous Open, and it was hardly a total bolt from the blue.
No.
He'd finished 3rd at Doral, hadn't he, in the World Golf Championship previous. And
Yeah, he'd won the Dubai Desert Classic as well that year, so there was some form coming in.
So I can see why he was very popular that year at 66 to 1. Clearly I didn't have a penny on him, but it goes without saying. Now, Barry, I know that you've got a trend that you've picked up on from various different sources. Do you want to take listeners through that? Because I found this one. This was something I hadn't actually thought about in terms of build-up and where players had played previous to taking out the green jacket.
I was floating around Twitter X the other day and saw this beauty from @GolfRamble, who is here in Ireland. So that was kind of cool. It was kind of mind-blowing. And I guess we kind of knew this was happening, but we just didn't see it as well put as this and concise as this. So since 2015, every Masters winner has played at least once in the 2 weeks leading up to the Masters. Here's the list who are not doing that this year: Scotty, Rory, Rahm, Bryson, Xander, Fitzpatrick, Young, Rose, and Reed. That's 9 pretty heavyweight names in terms of the odds board. And there was as it's X, there was a little bit of blowback from people. So a follow-up tweet, which really hammered it home. Some people are getting weirdly upset about this, so I'll put it another way. Since the OWGR was established in 1986, here's a list of every Masters winner who didn't play in the 2 weeks prior to their win. Tiger Woods, 2002, Adam Scott in 2013, and Bubba Watson in 2014. That's 3 out of the last 40 Masters winners.
3 out of 40. Wow.
That's pretty high. And trends and rules are there to be broken, but having that little bit of sharpening just before the main event doesn't tend to hurt. But as you say, some key players not this time. Haven't done that this year.
It might have to be a trend buster this year with that many big names there.
I can take that a point further. I have been through those that have placed over the last 2 years in the each way places. And only one over the last 2 years hadn't played within the last 2 weeks. And that was Xander in 2024 at 18 to 1. He hadn't played Houston. He hadn't played Valero. This includes live players as well, who for the past few years have always played at Doral the week before. He finished 5th at the Valspar. Every other winner and each way placer had played Texas, Live Miami, or Houston.
Wow. How many places did you go to, Steve? 6, 7, 8?
6, 7, yeah. 6, 7. Oh no, I'm out of date on that one. I can hear my son cringing. But it tells you something, doesn't it? To me, that tells you that your skills need to have been honed with competitive play. And by the way, I mean, I'm including people here like Ludwig last year, who played at the Texas Open and missed the cut. I'm including here Sung Jae Im. I know you've mentioned him this week, Baron. He finished 60th at the Houston Open. But they were still competing. They were still playing. They were still honing, I suppose.
Keeping the engine warm, keeping the parts moving. Like, you don't just go into a race without priming the vehicle. So I guess that has to be the analogy there, right?
Yeah,
I think so.
This year, given that the Live guys aren't playing Doral this year, then they won't have played. There'll be a 3-week gap since their last event. So I don't think we can just write off every Live player coming over, because some of them have got fantastic chances.
The schedule has changed, hasn't it?
Yes. So yeah, I think it's an interesting point. I think I wouldn't mind extending that to 3 weeks for the purposes of this year's analysis.
I agree, but I tell you one player that does throw huge problems into their chances. Cameron Young hasn't played since the Players, and I know he won, and I know he looked like one of the best golfers on the planet, which he is, but he has not played competitively since taking out the Players. Yeah, and this exercise, a lot of it's just finding weak spots, and what players can you take away. And based upon what we've just said, that is a big problem for Cam Young backers. That you've got to basically say, it's all rubbish, I'm going for Cam Young. I mean, he did win the tournament. I'm not taking that away. And clearly the guy's in white-hot form, but he hasn't played for almost a month competitively when they tee it up. Food for thought. I always think here, chaps, you need a bit of mumbo off the tee. A lot of this stuff that I'm quoting, by the way, is available in our research preview, which I am putting a link to in the descriptions of this podcast. Yeah, so it's loads of details in there about course and trends and all manner of stuff. But I always think long hitters and those with high ball flights are the guys that win around Augusta. And when you look into the recent past here, I use distance to apex rank. And if I go all the way back to Angel Cabrera, there's a name, 2009, nobody, and this clearly, if a live player actually does win, this is going to screw this ranking because you can't see anything statistically viable with them. But no player has ranked outside of the top 80 for driving distance, distance to apex when arriving at Augusta. Now, I can hear people say, top 80, what kind of stats that? But I tell you what, this is who, based in mind, we've still got a week worth of stats to be pumped in to the PGA Tour at Valero. But this, as we record this, because we're recording this prior to the closing of the Valero Texas Open, these are the players that would fall out based upon that trend, okay? There's some names in here, chaps. Get your pens and papers ready. Get your phone notes ready and whatever, and your your iPad message just ready. Right. JJ Sport, Patrick Cantlay, Shane Lowry, Jason Day, Colin Morikawa. This one, I can hear the audible gasp before I read this. Hideki Matsuyama, Victor Hovland, Sepp Straka. I can hear the gasps coming here as well. Matt Fitzpatrick, Daniel Berger, Siwoo Kim, Russell Henley, hey, Brian Harman. The last 2 or 3 don't really shock you, do they? But there's going to be players there. Fitzpatrick's going to be hugely popular. I could see Straka being popular. I'm talking about winners here, not people that place in the each-way spots. Not people that, some of these will contend, can contend, but they don't win. Matsuyama, Morikawa. There's the 3 big names for me, based on current form and the like, and just their brilliant play around Augusta traditionally. Now, I will say this out loud, and I will say this on this pod. I won't be placing bets on any of those. I think that's quite a critical number.
Yeah, look, and I get the logic and the correlation with how the course sets up, because it's a good proxy for power, isn't it? The likes of a Matt Fitz, who has put a bit of power on, and I think Barry mentioned this either privately or on the podcast this or last week, I forget, but because of the nature of his the way that he strikes the ball and the height of the ball, then that tends to be more his MO. So I guess in a renewal where it was windy and you're trying to keep the ball under the trees, and playing that kind of shots deliberately is going to give you an advantage. In a more placid renewal, like we're expecting, then raw power may be a bigger factor.
If those greens are just a little bit firmer than we've seen, this is going to become an even more telling stat to get that ball to sit down quicker and control what it does once it hits the ground. Here we go. I was looking up apex height as well as distance to apex, Steve. So Matt Fitzpatrick is second last in apex height on tour at 68 feet 11. And he is, that's 166th out of 167 tracked golfers. And he's 138th in distance to apex out of 167. So look, we all know the way he hits the ball, just those low piercing shots, and that's his style. If you have to change your style significantly to match what the challenge the course is presenting on a given week, does that take away a bit from his chances? He's doing something that's not totally natural to him.
I think so.
It still wouldn't surprise me. The guy, he's playing phenomenal golf at the moment, so it's not going to shock any of us if he top tens.
No.
Oh, no. He doesn't win, though, according to this trend. The other thing is, I'm just putting this into numbers. Matt Fitzpatrick, so far this year, he's hitting his apex after 181.7 yards, okay? The top guy in the whole of on the PGA Tour is Aldridge Potgieter, 209 yards. His approach shots or drives off the tee, top out.
Wow.
So it's that kind of difference from top to where Fitzpatrick is. This statistic is top 80. So it's been consistent going all the way back to Angel Cabrera.
Yeah, it's just a shame. I guess you just have to leave the live guys in the conversation, because you can't discount them because we haven't got the stats to do that. Although a fair few of them.
I wouldn't have thought Bryson's too far off the top of that list, chaps, all John Roll.
No, it's just a fair few of the contenders in that respect are big hitting lads, so yes.
Even your friend Patrick Reed in 2018 was he was 53rd in that ranking.
Yeah. He's sneaky good on a few things, isn't he, Patrick Reed?
The one stat I've got left to go through, and I don't know how this fits, Paul, is par 4 birdie or better, which is another thing that I always hark on about. Do you want me to go through that, or do you want to start going into your trends type analysis?
Yeah, look, I've only got. I can chop it down to 10 players from a couple of trends that we've run through in the past. So let's do that and give you a rest for a couple of minutes, and then we can.
I've got my post-it note ready.
Yeah,
Regulars will love that. The fact I have a post-it note and a pen ready.
It's not the post-it note of doom, hopefully, to put these.
No, that's on the wall.
These are green post-it notes just for the Masters, right, Steve? With a little
Green
yellow
for
accent.
No, it's actually white.
Okay.
It's actually a white post-it note, and it's from cartridgepeople.com. I thought I'd get an ad in there for those guys. Right, I'm ready. Go for it, Paul.
Well, we have gone through the same stats the last couple of preview pods for the Masters, and they've both times they've produced a winner, and both times they've produced some players who've seriously contended as well. So there may be something in it, and it's not rocket science, because I think you could throw stacks of different stats and filters and ways to trim it down at this tournament, but it boils down to just a couple of factors if you look at the raw results. And firstly, and you can use the recent majors form stat sheet on the site to help you out with this, because it's a good resource for this particular statistic. And that is that 13 of the last 14 Masters winners had recorded a top 15 or better in one of the majors the previous year. So the player had experienced enough of a positive week in one of the majors, or more than one of the majors in some instances, and then has used that experience and that positivity, I guess, to go forward and win the Masters. The exception to that was Bubba back in 2014, the second time that he won the Masters. He didn't have much of a performance in any of the majors the year before, but since then it's been really consistent. So looking at Rory last year, he was second to Bryson at Pinehurst, as I'm sure we all remember that particular episode and finish. Scotty was second and third in the US Open and the US PGA the year before. Rahm was 12th at the US Open. Scotty, the previous year to that, had finished in the top 10 in 3 of the majors. So, and you can map that statistic all the way back, as I say, to Bubba, and you'll find it running consistently. Now, if you apply that to this year's field, and then at the moment, with Tiger out, we're just over 90 players. We may get one more if the winner of the Valero hasn't already got a place in the field, but we're going to be in that bracket, 91, 92, something like that. If you apply that filter to this year's field, then you're already down to 40 players. So you're losing more than half of the field. And there's some big names that go as well, who didn't have a top 15 or better last year. Now, a couple of them are borderline, and I wouldn't, if you included these in your statistics, then I could understand why, because Tommy Fleetwood and Colin Morikawa both finished 16th at the Open Championship, so they miss out by a place. And I'm not going to be as pedantic as to say that that's 15th is a million times better than 16th, because it's not. Cam Smith, though, he missed the cut on all 4 major championships last year. And we know that Cam Smith can play Augusta, but he's struggling at the moment. Shane Lowry would be popular, of course. 40th was his best finish in a major last year. Patrick Cantlay, major form last year, 36, miscut. Nothing there. Minwoo Lee, even worse, 49th, miscut. And I think Minwoo Lee is likely to be quite a popular selection this week. But historically, there's enough there to suggest that he isn't going to win the tournament. Justin Thomas, best of 34th last year. Sergio, Sepp Straka, Akshay Bhatia. Again, I'm sure Akshay will be popular with some this year. Gary Woodland, our most recent winner, again, doesn't have a top 15 or better from last year. So, yeah, if you're interested in that, read the recent majors form stats and use that as part of your analysis and see if that takes you in a certain direction or down a certain rabbit hole potentially. The other one to overlay with that is that 12 of the last 14 winners had a win on a tour. So it could be any of the tours, but they had a win in one of their previous 6 outings. So the exception to that are Hideki and Patrick Reed, who, as Steve's already described, tend to be the exceptions to many of the rules here. So you do need to bear that in mind. But 12 of the last 14 winners had won a tournament in one of their last 6 outings. And just looking at the most recent winners, Rory had won at Pebble and at Sawgrass. The year before, Scotty had won at Bay Hill and Sawgrass as well. Rahm had won 3 times, Kapalua, PGA West and at Riviera. And Scotty, the first time, had won in Phoenix, Bay Hill, and he'd also won the WGC match play that was played that year. So the last 4 winners had in fact had multiple season victories to that point too. So interesting point, because when we got to our conversation last year when we were trying to find the eventual winner, the summary that we kind of got to was that if you could name the most informed player of that season to date, then that was the winner. And essentially that's happened for the last 4 years. Interesting if you look at the players who are in the field that do have multiple wins this week, because, this year to date, because I can only see 4. That is Bryson, Patrick Reed, who won twice over on the DP World Tour, Chris Gotterup, and Casey Jarvis, who again has won a couple of times over on the DP World Tour. So, that's if you use that stat, if you overlay that as well, then that does narrow things down. And as I said, if you use both of those, then you'll come down to 10. Here's the list. I'd say it's in alphabetical order, but it's in first name alphabetical order, because that's how my spreadsheet has ranked them. Anyway, Bryson, Cameron Young, Chris Gotterup, Colin Morikawa, John Rahm, Justin Rose, Matt Fitzpatrick, Patrick Reed, Scotty Scheffler, and Zach Johnson. Now, Zach Johnson's interesting because he's playing on the Champions Tour now. But he also finished 8th here last year.
Come on, that has to be a big red line. Come up with another stat just to put a line through Zach, would you?
But Barry was 8th here last year. He's a former champion. Think of Angel Cabrera, Barry. Could come back year after year to win.
So just recap that list for listeners and for myself who can't write quickly enough.
Bryson, Cam Young, Chris Gotterup, Morikawa, John Rahm, Justin Rose, Matt Fitzpatrick, Patrick Reed, Scotty Scheffler, and 500 to 1 winner Zach Johnson. 1,000 on the exchange, Barry. He doesn't believe it, does he?
No, I'm looking at odds checker right now. I wouldn't back him with your money.
Interesting.
If you look at some of the players that miss out, Rory hasn't won this year. He's defending champion as well, isn't he? So, there's the statistics that suggest that that's not going to happen. Ludwig, Xander, both of them got a best of third this year. Both of them trending. And again, I think they'll both be really popular because they are heading in the right direction form-wise, but they'll just miss out in terms of the actual raw statistics. But yeah, let's see if we can snare the winner out of one of those players that we've mentioned.
I'm seeing Matt Fitzpatrick as short at the present time as 16 to 1 to win the Masters next week. Interesting. The last number I'll throw at this is par 4 birdie or better, which traditionally, although not last year, And we were sensible enough to ignore this last year because McIlroy ranked 33rd for par 4 birdie or better before winning the Masters. But prior to him, Scheffler Rahm, Scheffler the first time, DJ, Tiger Woods and Patrick Reed had all ranked in the top 10, or in the case of Tiger Woods, 11th the previous season for par 4 birdie or better. So here's a list of players pre-end of the Valero Texas Open, so these will change slightly, who tick that particular box. So I'm taking top 10 from last year. Scheffler number 1, JT and Cantlay are in the top 10. And I'm now taking the top 10 from this year so far. Guess who's number 1, chaps? Oh, Scotty Scheffler. And he's drifting like a barge, price-wise. So Scotty Scheffler at number 1. We've then got Bridgman, Bhatia, Siwoo Kim, Burns, and a name you mentioned a while ago, Paul, Min Woo Lee. And if I take it out to Rory's rank from last year, top 35, these are people that it would include. Fitzpatrick, English, Alex Noren, Gerard, Morikawa, Xander, Ryan Fox, Gary Woodland, Russell Henley, Nico Echeverria, Cam Young, Jake Knapp, Robert McIntyre, Nikolai Højgaard and Maverick McNeely. Not Rory.
Yeah, he's down on a fair few stats this year so far.
Just to jump in, let's not get too focused on birdie or better. I'm just curious, wanted to look at par 4 scoring average. Because, it's easier to avoid bogeys. So if you can. So the top 10 there, Bridgman, Scheffler, Siwoo, Kitayama, McIntyre, Bhatia, Fowler, Knapp. And then there's a good bunch of them tied 9th. So Damon, Fitzpatrick, Fox, Rory, Morikawa, Rose, Schauffele, and Stevens. And they're at 3.94 average, with the leader being Bridgman at 3.89. So Rory's, just because he's not making as many birdies, just doesn't mean he's not playing them well. Just interesting to kind of cross the stats and see what happens in the Venn diagram.
Yeah, and that's a fair point, Barry, because I think the nature of this course is that if you can manage your way around the par 3s and the par 4s around about level par, maybe 1 or 2 under, and make the rest of your score up on the par 5s, then that is the kind of winning template. So I don't think you need... I think the birdie or better stat is useful in the respect that you are going to make mistakes here. You are going to make bogeys. So if you can find a way to get some birdies back on some of those par 4s, then that will set you in good stead.
Yeah.
And if that means that you end up around about level par for the 4s over the course of 4 days, then that's about right.
Yeah,
but
I
you
like
still
that.
you still need to go and make your score on the 5s.
It's almost like the 5s are just an exclusive category on their own for birdies and eagles, and then the 3s and the 4s. Any birdies you make on the 3s or the 4s are bonus birdies. You're not fully expecting to do it, but on the 5s, you have to make hay there. So, yeah, it's anybody else out there, listeners, have any stats that have kind of proven useful for them over the years? We would appreciate a nudge in the right direction. So these are just ones we've noticed. More specifically, Paul and Steve, because I don't really dig into the numbers that deep, that much.
To back you up on that par 4 scoring, and I genuinely think this is where the Masters is won each and every year. McIlroy tied for first last year. He was 3 under for the 4s. Scotty Scheffler, 24, was T2 for the par 4s. He shot even par on them. John Rahm, 3 under for his par 4s when he won in 23. He ranked first. Scheffler, the first time, T3. He was even. Hideki Matsuyama was T2 for par 4s. he shot even. And DJ in the crazy year, November, was first for par fours. He was 5 under. What that does tell you, really, as you just said, it's about minimising bogeys on the par fours, staying afloat on them, not making bogeys or worse on the fours. Because it's, as you said, the par fours are a bonus. If you can make birdie on a couple of par fours around, you are gaining a huge amount of shots on the field.
Yeah.
A huge amount of shots. Right, Barry. Looking at the current odds that are available, what kind of players are you really focusing in on as part of your portfolio for the 26 Masters? Just throw some players out there that you don't think are going to challenge.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go big here. I'm gonna say Scotty's not gonna win. There's my opening statement.
I'll back you on that.
Yeah, it's brave.
I'm backing you.
But yeah, hasn't quite looked himself, has he? Since winning at PGA West, and then it's kind of been just a slow and steady decline since then. Losing strokes on approach as well when you look through some of his numbers, and that really doesn't bode well for Scotty. I know he withdrew in Houston because they've got their next child arriving. I haven't heard. I don't know if you guys are closer to it than me or have seen something, but I've not heard that that the birth has happened yet. And if there is no news, and if I guess the nappy factor is one thing, but coming straight from the delivery room into Augusta National, God, that's another factor completely. So, yeah, I think there's a bit to put you off Scotty a little bit this week.
The year he won the first time in 2022, I'm talking about my 8-week strokes gain trackers. He ranked, bearing in mind he was 16-1, he ranked 15 for tee to green heading in, and number 1 for putting, believe it or not, the year he won it the first time. Now, based on numbers that I've got here, which don't include the Valero Texas Open, he would be entering at 15 for tee to green in my tracker, and for putting is number 15. So we could be making the best call ever or the very worst call ever when he wins by 4 and puts on the green jacket for the third time, and we'd be sitting here going, I can't believe we could have got 13-2 on Scotty Scheffler to win the Masters. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. At this point, I wouldn't back him. Personally.
Well, no, and what could change in the next few days that would swing that opinion? And I think that's indicative, as Barry said, or as you said, of the market where he's drifting out quite dramatically at the moment. Well, dramatically in relative terms for Scotty Scheffler's price, but yeah, he could go off 6-1 or longer maybe if that drift continues over the weekend.
When he won the American Express on the second week of the PGA Tour in January this year, if you'd have said, oh, by the way, there's going to be a sniff of 6-1, 15-2 about Scotty Scheffler to win the Masters, we'd have all sat here laughing. No chance.
Yep.
What players do you fancy then, Barry, if it isn't going to be Scotty for you this year?
Right, okay, so I've done a little sprinkling on the exchange already, waiting for full prices to come out. So I have backed Xander and Ludwig on the exchange. Just noted Xander the last few weeks, coming in with very nice rounds on Sunday, but overall very good play, good results, under the radar. So, and we talked about this after the pod on Tuesday, that we looked at where he was falling down. It was his Saturday scoring average is not good at the moment. So there's a lot of very good things there. So I've decided to put a bet on him. Oberg, playing excellent golf, has kind of fits a lot of those key stats we've been talking about earlier for distance to apex height. Has shown his face at Augusta so far.
Twice in 2 outings.
Yeah, good. So it would be an outlier if he did win it, but I think the talent level is extreme with him. So I did notice, though, looking a bit deeper after I've kind of put the bet on, that his strokes gained putting there is nuts for the 2 outings he's had. So there's a little bit of prop up there, but the talent is great, and it would be pretty storybook if he did, after having only just two wins on tour. Bryson and Rahm are, those their numbers are there. They're really good, and I wonder what Bryson has adapted and learned over the last year since Sunday didn't go his way. Is he putting more pieces of the puzzle together? It's hard to pick a hole in either of their games to not back them, but I haven't. And what I might do is kind of stay away from that very short end of the leaderboard. I have a couple of others that I have just kind of done the exchange bets on so far, just waiting for the full markets to come out, which might be, it's usually later today or tomorrow they start to filter through.
Yeah.
You're going to focus your mind on this 45 to 1 to 66 to 1 range of players that won't tick all the trends, but on occasion do win the Masters, yeah?
So, yeah, well, look, I'm not going to back Fitzpatrick, Young, Fleetwood, Rose, Morikawa, Matsuyama, Reed, coin flip. It depends a little bit on price. Minwoo, no. McIntyre, interesting. Lefty, playing well. So there's that. And you and I, Steve, we put a bet on Brooks a couple of weeks ago where we managed to get him at 45 to 1 with 8 places, which I'm very happy to be sitting on. And I don't mind his miscut last week. Because you know that guy, for all the reasons we said about backing him last week, and then he goes and miscuts, that the rationale behind why we backed him hasn't changed. Like, he's coming out here with a mission to prove that he belongs back on the PGA Tour, and there's some really good golf backing that up. So if you can tighten up that driver, I think that's the one weakness we really saw, that driver. So if that can be tightened up since between Houston and tee off on Thursday, that's a very appetizing bet to be sitting on.
His approach playing around the green and everything is great. The putter has started to warm, and as we've already discussed, isn't the key to winning here. It's whether he can tighten that driver up. And as we know, this course is very, very, there's flexibility in terms of the driving. It's wide off the tee and clearly no rough. It's tree and water trouble on some of the holes, isn't it? Well, not water as such, no, but it's certainly tree trouble. Yeah. Interesting. What about you, Paul? Players that haven't got an interest in or have got an interest in?
Yeah, I'm kind of echo Barry's point on Scotty. I won't go near Rory either. I think there's enough question marks, not only with the back issue, which has blighted him recently, but his putting at Sawgrass was really poor. He lost over 5 strokes on the greens in the end there. Defending champions don't tend to have it the best way, and but as euphoric as last year was, and I'd be hard pressed to see him repeat that. So no doubt he goes and retains this week. Of the ones a little bit further down, I'm struggling to get away from Bryson, I must say. I think if you were to ask me who has played the best golf so far this season, then I'd be hard pressed to put anyone better than Bryson. I guess some people may have a different view on that, but Bryson could well be the one there. A little bit further down, again, we've talked about Patrick Reed. You talk about his price, Barry. If someone offered you, let's say, 40-1 with 8 or 10 places, would that be enough to tempt you on Patrick Reed?
I think so. I think he might make the roster anyway. Just like the couple of wins on tour, he just gets Augusta. It just matches. He just matches up very well with it. So, and as always, you've got that mental factor of him. He'll be looking at the President's Cup and then the Ryder Cup next year as targets. So. This is a really good first opportunity to do that, to put his name right up there.
Yeah, I agree. And he won the Dubai Desert Classic, which we've already mentioned. Danny Willett won before he won. Sergio Garcia won that before he won that in his year.
I remember you guys
won that earlier in the season,
saying that's like an analogous course to Augusta in some way, or is it just that we have an unusual combination of some winners of that have won the Masters?
A bit of both, I think. And it is one of the more kind of manicured courses out there, particularly on the DP World Tour. And if you were to list a hierarchy of DP World Tour venues, then it's going to be up there, amongst the very top ones. But yes, I don't think you can draw that many other comparisons between the two, but there's certainly been a lot of crossover over the years between players who've played well there, won there, and either gone on to play well the same year at Augusta or in subsequent or previous years. So, yeah, I don't think it's a bad kind of factor to have into the mix this week. But yeah, I've started to, and we have this same issue each year with the fact that you bring in players from various tours together. So statistics wise, it's very easy to favour the PGA Tour players because you've got more statistics about them. So particularly with the predictor model next week, I tend to try and make it as fair as I can, and that means bringing as many stats as I can as possible in from the Live players and the DP World Tour players. And just from the initial work that I've done, both Patrick Reed and Bryson are both very strong statistically on some of the basic stats, the greens in regulation, scrambling, that kind of stuff. So it's pushing me in that direction, but we've got 3 or 4 days to give it some thought over the weekend, so see where it leads us.
Absolutely. I'm just looking here, Paul, at the strokes gained analysis you've pulled together. As again, I do say, go to Golf Betting System. There's a strokes gained tab under the Masters. I'm taking those that have played more than once here. And these are the top 10 for strokes gained total at Augusta since 2016.
I think we've only got a full 5 years worth from there, but yes.
Okay, full 5 years. So we've got Rose at 10. By the way, Jordan Spieth misses out at 11th. Spieth, Rose, Cam Smith at 9. Hideki at 8, McIlroy at 7, Jon Rahm at 6, Xander at 5, Barry, just to get you excited. Patrick Reed at 4. That's crazy.
Great.
He does it in a different way, though. It's not tee to green with Reed. He ranks 15th across that time. He's 4th for putting here. 3 is Colin Morikawa. Just to get you even more excited, Barry, Ludwig is at 2. Number 1, of course, it's Scotty Scheffler. Scotty gains 2.96 per round. Ludwig, 2.87. And then we've got Colin at 2.06. So those top 2 at the moment are in a class of their own.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's had chances both times, hasn't he, Ludwig? 2 from 2.
Definitely. My tips will be out there on Monday of next week. I'm not backing Scotty. I'm definitely not backing Rory. As Barry said, I've already had a sprinkle on Brooks each way.
Sorry if I've trapped you into officially declaring that a bet on Monday, but maybe you can note it as a sidebar if you want to put in 5 other bets.
Yeah, sidebar bet.
Yeah.
And then there are players here that I won't go near. Fitzpatrick will be one of them. I'm struggling with Cam Young based upon his inactivity. I'm struggling with Tommy. I'm struggling with Colin. We haven't seen him. He was meant to play this week. I couldn't take Chris Cotter up, debutant. I'll tell you what, though. I'll tell you a player I keep seeing his numbers everywhere, and he is a debutant, and I'm not suggesting he wins. But Jacob Bridgman ticks a lot of boxes. Mm-hmm. He's playing some outstanding golf. He was very high up in that par 4 birdie or better statistic.
Number 1.
Number 2.
Number 1 in par 4 scoring average.
Yeah. I've had some feedback from various people saying, we're on the Bridgman train for Augusta. I'd like to do some digging into debutants that can actually get in the each-way places. I know that Ludwig is a very obvious one from 2 years ago.
Yeah, although there'll be a debutant.
Bridgman's one to contend with, I think.
Yeah, there'll be a debutant market out there, so he won't be a long price, but there may be some value in that if there's nothing else in there that anyone fancies.
Yeah, you'd assume that Chris Gotterup will be favourite in that particular market.
Yeah. Well, twice a winner this season, so yeah.
Bridgman will probably be number 2. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I can list you some players that I won't be backing, and of course I won't be backing Adam Scott in a major championship. Just to get that one out there. Are we done, chaps?
Yeah, all I was going to mention finally was the majors competition, which closes the first tee time on Thursday. So I'm sure many of you have listened to previous pods, so you know the details. But in short, it's a one and done. We want 4 names, one for each of the 4 majors, and just pop them to us via X or via Facebook or email or Bluesky or whatever, and we'll collate the leaderboard. Steve will put the competition rules and details in the podcast description, so take a look. Free to enter, cash prize.
I sure will. There's been a literal tsunami of entries this week.
There has, yes. Do you want me to tell you the top 5 picks so far for the Masters?
Yes, please.
Just as a closing point. Most popular from the players or the entries so far: Scotty Scheffler, number 1; Ludwig Oberg, number 2; John Rahm, number 3; Rory McIlroy, number 4; and we have a tie currently between Bryson and Xander as the 5th most popular picks for the Masters so far. But yes, get your
lovely stuff. Lovely stuff. As I said, my tips and all of our data, predictor models, the like, will all be available on Monday of tournament week, which is the 4th of April. Our podcast will be released, our tips podcast, on the 5th. Thanks for your time, chaps.
Cheers, boys.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
We will reconvene on Tuesday. See you soon.
If you like betting on golf, but everyone that you back misses the cut, get some experts involved with all the stats and the tips and so much more, 'cause it's the golf betting system, the golf